This. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Big thank you to Sarah and Claudia and Kat for being here today. Kat especially is our guest speaker for March for Girls Gone Grateful. She is a new friend to me. We've only met a few weeks ago through a joint venture that we're both on in a wellness business that we're both part of. And she's going to be chatting about that later on in this time that we have together. But Kat is from Estonia, which I've just learned, and now is living in British Columbia, right in the Canada, soon to be moving, but staying in Canada. And she is a holistic yoga and wellness coach. She is super passionate about, she started being super passionate about learning about her cycle about 6 to 9 months ago, and has kind of dove in deep to learning more, and now is ready to share with us everything that she's been learning throughout her time and her experiences. So we're super thankful, Kat, to have you. And just thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited because I'm also going to be sharing something with everyone who's going to be watching this recording, or is going to be like who's on tonight for the first time ever, like something that I've been working on, and you guys are the first ones to find out. Awesome. So I'm pretty excited. But let me share a little bit about kind of my story and how I became so passionate about this topic, menstrual cycles, women's health, and we can then dive into everything. But I have been on my own holistic health journey now since 2015, which is when I moved from Europe to New Zealand, and I was going through a really bad depression episode. I didn't know what was going on with me back then. I was so like, what's going on? Like, I've just moved across the world. I'm traveling in a van, and here I am completely depressed. What's wrong with me? And it was around that time that I discovered yoga, and yoga helped me heal. And yoga was kind of my gateway drug to holistic health. And I remember picking up a book on holistic nutrition and reading that hormonal birth control can cause depression. And suddenly light bulbs went off in my head. I was like, no freaking way. Because before we went traveling, I had literally gotten a hormonal IUD inserted because I was like, oh, it's going to be easy for traveling. I don't have to worry about birth control. Woohoo. And then I was piecing things together, and I was like, oh my God, like this hormonal IUD gave me depression. So of course, suddenly I was like, oh my God, why do people not know about this? So I would love to say that this was the time when I came off hormonal birth control, but it wasn't, because my whole life I had suffered with hormonal issues. Like, I remember being in school and my PMS was so bad that I couldn't go to school. I had to take a day off. I would be at home in cramps. I would have a super, super heavy bleed. And I would really be struggling with a lot of things. My skin was really bad, which was half of the reason why I went on birth control as early as at 17 years old. Not because of birth control, but literally to help with my acne. And because I had all these experiences as a young teenager, when I then found out that hormonal birth control was not actually that great for you, and I read even more about it, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to deal with it. I'll just deal with it. You know, I'll just do more yoga, I'll eat more healthy. I'm just going to balance out the bad stuff that comes from, because I was so worried that if I was to come off hormonal birth control and go back to a natural cycle, that I would be suffering in pain and that I wouldn't know how to deal with myself. So I continued being on birth control for probably another 3 years after that. And at one point, it was after I had kind of come across Juice Plus. I don't know if anyone else on here is on these amazing products. I know Jennifer will be, because that's how we met. And I know Sarah is, because she's my client. But I, for the first time, felt safe enough to finally go off hormonal birth control, because I had read so many amazing testimonials of other women, how, you know, they were able to transition with the help of Juice Plus and have like less painful periods and have a regular cycle, etc. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm getting off this. And I had the most smooth transition ever. Within 28 days, I got my cycle, and I have been regular ever since. I don't really suffer with PMS and things like that, which is, by the way, not normal. Like, just because it's common, it's not normal. And that's kind of like how it all came to start at the beginning. But now over this last year, I have been learning more about, I don't know, have you guys heard about human design? If you have, let me know in the chat section. But I found out I'm a projector in human design, which is someone that needs a lot of rest. And prior to finding out that I was a projector, I had been like hustling, like there was no tomorrow, like a manifesting generator. I was like acting as if, and I was on the fast train to burnout. So suddenly I started to learn about, okay, I need to rest more, I need to embody more of my feminine. And a friend of mine recommended me the book, which changed everything, In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti, which was my first introduction to cycle syncing. And ever since kind of finishing the book and learning about the different phases of our cycle and how to really nourish us, I was like, every woman needs to know about this. No one teaches us about it. You know, we try to function like men, yet we know deep inside that that's not how we are meant to function. So that's just a little bit about my story and kind of how I came onto this topic. And I've been deep diving into it like the last 9 months. And the more I started sharing about, the more people started coming to me like, oh my God, can you tell me more? Can you educate me? So I noticed that there was a huge kind of gap in the market. And I was like, okay, I'm passionate about this. I'm ready to share with you guys what I've learned. And part of that is going to be tonight. I don't know how long it's going to go. I hope not too long, but I have no idea. I've only done these kind of workshops in person, so we'll see how it goes. And let me see, I think I can somehow present for this as well so that it's like the main screen, but I've never actually done this on Zoom, so we'll see. We'll see how that. Okay, can you guys see this? Does that look good? Okay, perfect. Well, let me see actually if I can, because it's a full screen for me as well. Damn it. Okay, I'm gonna have to have it like this. Sorry guys, because I still need my notes, and when it was on full screen, I couldn't have my notes. So excuse me. But tonight we're gonna learn about your infradian rhythm, aka your menstrual cycle. This is my name. I'm Kat Taniberg. Jennifer already introduced me. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, this is my Instagram handle. I post a lot about stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight, as well as all the other fun things that I'm up to. Let me see. How can I? Okay. Your menstrual cycle, for so many women, it can literally feel like this is a curse from a young, and that's what it felt like to me when I was a young teenager. I felt like my menstrual cycle was a curse, something to be ashamed of, something that shouldn't really be talked about. And I really just didn't know how to deal with it. You know, we're being taught to feel ashamed rather than empowered. And it's something that is so fundamental to us. It's our biochemistry, it's our reproductive system, it's our menstrual cycle, yet it's twisted into this curse that we're meant to hide or deal with rather than celebrate and really use it to our advantage, because you can totally use it to your advantage once you start learning about it. So I'm here to tell you that learning to live in sync with your cycle can totally be a gift. And I really hope that after tonight, you'll feel that way, or at least you get a little glimpse of it. And I'd love to know, maybe you can use the chat function. Who here has heard of the term infradian rhythm before? Do you know anything about it? Do you know how many phases we have in our cycle? Anyone? Or am I speaking to some people who are brand new to this topic? You've never even heard of it, which is exciting as well. Let me see, what's the rest of the chat? I don't know. See, didn't know the term before. Great. Okay, never heard of it. Ooh. Oh my God, guys. Yes. This is a perfect crowd to be speaking to tonight then. Okay, so before I dive into also the different phases of our cycle, because there's 4 different phases that are very distinct, and we have our different superpowers during the different phases. But before I dive into that, I'd love to share a couple of things. For instance, did you know that being out of sync with your female chemistry can weaken your thyroid, can weaken your ovaries, can weaken your liver, your adrenals, your immune system, and also your digestion? And I'm sure we can all agree that these are pretty vital to our health. So many people who teach around female hormones and the female cycle actually call it the fifth vital sign. Like our menstrual cycle is the fifth vital sign because it can tell us so much about our health. You know, the irregular, oh my God, I can't say the word, irregularities. Oh my, I'm not going to say it again. Or the lack of your period can tell you so much about your health. And we're not going to be diving too deep into those topics in per se, like hormone imbalance, but there's a lot of amazing resources that can educate you further on this. Okay, so many women, I'm going to come to the next slide here. Oh no, this one here. No, oh my God, I'm a mess. So let's say goodbye to the old way of doing things. Like I mentioned earlier, so many women try to function like men according to the 24-hour clock because that's what we're taught to do. And we believe that we should have the same amount of energy, the same creativity day in and day out, week in, week out. But like I mentioned earlier, when we truly look within and check in with us, we know that that's not the case. We know that our energy is not static, that it's not the same day to day, week to week. Our productivity could be completely different depending on where you're at in your 28-day cycle. And also, did you know that 75% of people who have an autoimmune disease are women? 75%. Mind-blowing. And by the way, you guys can use the chat if you have any like feedback or questions, just pop them in there. It's mind-blowing, exactly. And yet women's symptoms are not taken seriously because medicine just doesn't know much about our bodies and our health problems. And it doesn't want to take our symptoms seriously. Did you also know this? Like when I found this out, I was actually like, how is that even possible? Most scientific research on different diets and different exercises have been done on men or menopausal women. We're not included in any of the scientific research. You want to know why? Because we're not reliable, because our hormones change so much over the 28 days. Like, what? So stupid. Exactly. I just can't get it. So when you realize that our culture's foundational health research had largely excluded women, it's easy to grasp why our health issues are sometimes misunderstood and misdiagnosed. And honoring your cyclical nature is the only way that you can really take advantage of those gifts of your body and just really embrace your feminine superpowers. So there's a few side effects that you might experience from syncing with your cycle. You could find yourself building more energy, not simply draining it. You can feel really, really good about who you are, feel good about in your body the whole month because you understand it. You can feel powerful and confident. You can have time work for you instead of twisting yourself around time. You can feel less stressed, but get more done. Like who doesn't want that? who here, like put it in the chat, put a 1 in the chat if you want to feel less stressed, but get more done. Yep. Like that's just the dream, right? Hell yes. So let's dive into the 4 phases. And typically when you track your cycle, you would start with the menstrual phase, and your first day of your bleed is the first day. But just for the simplicity of today's call, I'm going to actually start with the follicular phase, which is the phase that starts once your period is finished. It's your kind of your creative bloom. It's like your inner spring. It's like when things kind of start to blossom. And this phase lasts about 7 to 10 days. It starts right after your period. And during this phase, your body prepares for what will become a healthy, strong, and viable egg come ovulation. So all of your hormones at the start of the week are at the lowest levels ever. And they slowly start to begin to increase in concentration. And during this phase, we're seeing a rise in estrogen, which leads us to feeling more creative, more expansive, more focused, more outgoing. Like start thinking about it. The last time, like once you were done with your period, you notice that? Like you just kind of, you feel like you're like, ready, here I am. Like you're in a spring, you're just blooming, you're coming out of your winter sleep. It's so awesome to, once you start really, I plan everything like according to my cycle. Literally, if I have like a launch or anything, or I'm speaking somewhere, I'm like, oh, let me check with my little calendar, what phase am I going to be in? Because I want to make sure that I'm either in my follicular phase or my ovulation phase. I'm literally a nerd like that. But if you can also take little photos of these, because it's just a quick intro into the phases if you want. But during this time, it's very important for you to support your liver so that it can flush the excess estrogen, because too much estrogen can cause hormonal symptoms and conditions ranging from PCOS to heavy periods, breast tenderness, and PMS symptoms. It's super, super important to support your gut microbiome and help it to detox this extra estrogen. And when you're thinking of different foods for this phase, you want to think of fresh, vibrant, light foods that make you feel energized. Kind of just think about, spring, like what kind of food are you craving in spring? It's very similar. It's really easy to kind of compare our 4 phases to the 4 cycles of the year, because we're cyclical and the world is cyclical, and everything kind of makes sense once you start looking at it. But fermented foods are also really great during this phase. And because you're more creative during this phase, it's a great time to start daydreaming, start planting those metaphorical seeds for your future. This is a great time to create a vision board, or start just thinking about like, what do I actually want from life? Like, what are my goals, my dreams? Where can I set intentions for my future? Starting to connect the dots. Yes, love to hear this. And then also during this phase, our creative problem-solving abilities are at its peak. This is the time to accomplish the most mentally taxing tasks that you could have. Like the ones that really take up a lot of your mental capacity, try to schedule them to do them during your follicular phase, because you're able to think big and start new creative projects that you've been putting off during this time. The way that our hormones are working, the way that our brain spheres are connecting with each other, it's amazing. You're also blooming emotionally right now, which means that it's a great time to go on a date, whether it's with yourself or with your partner. You're going to be more open to new experiences in general. So say yes to those invites, to those networking events, go out with your friends, go for a road trip, go and explore a new area. This is the perfect time to really try out anything new, like anything. And your physical energy is also rising, which means it's a great time to try some new physical activities as well, like a new way to move your body, whether it's a bar class, a different type of yoga, maybe it's a new fun boot camp style class in the gym, just anything super fun that try just to mix up your old routine. This is the time to really do it. Whatever you feel called to, just make sure to have fun and enjoy yourself during this time. I'm going to start asking friends what their stage they are, and so I know how to also schedule. Yes, like this is the kind of conversations that I have with my girlfriends. Like literally, I did a workshop around this with a friend of mine. We did a little bit of a bigger topic, and we both, when we were planning the workshop, we were like looking at our like schedules and our apps, being like, I'm going to be in this phase. Oh, I'm going to be in this phase. Okay, perfect. It's so funny, but it's true. And then after your spring comes your sensual abundance, your ovulation phase. So this is kind of your inner summer. This phase is the shortest phase of your cycle. It's only 3 to 5 days long. And ovulation generally, like the actual day of ovulation, occurs 14 to 21 days after the first day of your menstruation, so after your first bleed. So that's kind of a way that you can track when you're actually going to be ovulating, but it can vary depending on different outside factors like stress. But the start of this phase of your ovulation phase is often marked by an increase in cervical fluid. So if you notice, for instance, in your panties, you're like, oh, there is, a little bit more discharge, you can be aware that, oh, it's probably because I'm in my ovulation phase. And you'll know this phase as your most fertile window. However, if the egg is not fertilized by sperm during this phase, your body prepares to shed the uterine lining and you head into the luteal phase, which we'll get to in a moment. And then after that, into your menstrual bleed, which is literally where you get rid of the uterine lining. And for most of us, this phase is the most exciting and freeing. Like, I'm currently in my ovulation phase. I'm like, yes, anything. I'm like, you feel like Superwoman when you're ovulating for those 3 to 5 days. You're like, I can take on the world. I can do whatever I want. Nothing can stop me. This is my time. You're like, move out of my way. I'm here. I love this phase. I want it to be longer. I know, me too. But there's actually benefits to each phase, which I hope you're going to learn today. But this is like, it's fun. It's a great phase. And, you know, it feels exciting. It feels freeing. We have ample amounts of energy. We tend to find ourselves with a stronger libido, not just sexually, but just in life in general. We're just craving for experiences. You might notice that you feel sexier. You feel kind of more good looking, you'll feel more energized, you feel more outgoing, and you just have a certain glow around you. It's obviously nature doing its thing, basically letting the guys know, oh, this one, she's ready. So it's just nature doing its thing. And this actually that glow comes from the surge of testosterone, and because those hormones are kind of at the highest peak during your ovulation. So it's super important for all women who ovulate to understand how to best take care of ourselves during this phase. And this is because ovulation plays such a big role in our overall hormonal health. Again, in our brain spheres and everything, during this phase, the verbal and social centers of the brain are stimulated by our hormones. So make sure to talk about what you want with everyone you talk to during this week. Actually, this is like the best time to really kind of bring your point across, because you're just going to be the best at communicating and really expressing what you need. So if you have something big where you need to really kind of drive your point across, see if you can schedule it to happen during your ovulation phase, because this is that's your superpower right now. Yeah, our smell changes during this time. Yeah, no, it's completely true. Completely true. And like I said, it's a pretty important time for good conversation. So connect with your community and enjoy being magnetic, enjoy being Superwoman, enjoy just being able to take on the world. And like I mentioned, communication is the superpower, but so is also collaboration. So really work with teams, listen to other people's input. This is also a great time to present ideas, to pitch, to sell, to negotiate. Again, working in teams. Also, this is the time to ask for a raise because of the heightened communication skills, making it easier for your message to be well received. So if you're wanting to ask for a raise at work, make sure you're doing it whilst you're ovulating. And you will have more energy to burn. So just go for it. Choose those high impact group workouts or heat sessions at the gym. And as for food, during this phase, you want to fill up on raw vegetables and fruits to really ensure that your body easily metabolizes and eliminates any estrogen surplus that has still kind of lingered around. And you want to stick to lighter grains such like quinoa or corn. And ovulatory foods also promote vascular and antioxidant well-being for your ovaries. So there's so much more that I could tell you guys, but I know that there's a lot to handle. So I'm kind of just trying to give you guys a little sneak peek into all of this today. And then your ovulation phase, your inner summer, is followed by your inner autumn, which is honoring your inner landscape, the luteal phase. So this is actually the longest phase of our cycle. It's on average 14 days long. And it almost has like two parts to it. During the first week of it, it's kind of like an extended ovulation phase. So a lot of the things that were your superpowers when you were ovulating, you can still kind of lean on them during the first half of your luteal phase. And then almost like the second half is when it's really preparing for your menstrual cycle, and you'll notice that your energy is starting to wean down. So it's kind of almost like two phases in one. And you'll really notice that in this as well. Yeah, it's so cool to know what to eat during different phases. It's super, super interesting. And I know I didn't touch on this too much, but in spring, it's mainly lighter cooking things like sauteing and things like that. And then, like I said, whilst you're ovulating, it's more like raw, fresh salads. So now, and then with the luteal phase, which we'll go into in a moment, it's more like starting to be more warmer foods. You just really just think about it just like with the seasons. It really makes a lot of sense to compare the two. Okay, where was I? During this phase, during our luteal phase, we often find ourselves shedding what no longer feels relevant, supportive, or true to us, because we're preparing for our menstrual phase where we're literally shedding. Do women tend to crave this? Yeah. And this is something that, Indy, you can start, I don't know if actually it's Indy is your name, maybe it's not, it's Buffalo Indy Weddings. But once you start becoming aware of your different cycles, you will start to notice that you're craving different things. I definitely noticed that. It's Ali. Okay. Hi, Ali. You'll crave fresh foods during the first half, and then during the second half of your cycle, you'll notice you crave more hearty foods. It's really, really interesting to start kind of noticing this once you kind of create that awareness. And that's what I hope you guys can take from tonight. If it's, just a little bit of awareness that you can start to bring into like being like, oh, what's going on for me? And I should have probably said this at the beginning. If you're on hormonal birth control, this doesn't necessarily apply to you because you're not actually going through the cycle. But anyway, this phase here has us slowing down and channeling that energy into nurturing our deepest relationships, into completing projects and tidying up loose ends, both mentally and physically. This is the phase when progesterone levels in your blood begin to ramp up immediately after ovulation, with the biological goal of this being preparing your body for a potential pregnancy. So the increase in progesterone can heighten your feel-good emotions and your desire to nest. So you'll notice that you just want to kind of stay home more. So you know how you did all that socializing the first 2 weeks? Now it's kind of time to just start doing our own thing. And if pregnancy doesn't occur, progesterone levels begin to decline again, eventually leveling out and causing the uterine lining to shed, which is the start of our menstrual phase. So the dip in progesterone, once we've kind of had the height and then we didn't get pregnant, so then it starts to dip, it can result in feelings of dissatisfaction or restlessness. It's completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you. So pair that then with the fact that the second half of the luteal phase is when we see the greatest number of PMS symptoms, such as breakouts, cramping, bloating. And it's clear that it's basically like it's essential for us to lean into our desires and needs and truly take care of ourselves during these phases because of all these things happening. So like I mentioned earlier, PMS might be common, but it's not actually a necessary part of this phase. So the more you're able to cycle sync and really give your body what it needs during the different phases, the less you'll start to notice PMS symptoms throughout your cycle. And when we go back to our brain chemistry is optimized during these 2 weeks for task and detail orientation and bringing projects to completion. Like I always share the story that I dread doing my taxes. I work full-time for myself, so there's a lot going on. But literally in January, I had my luteal phase and I smashed out my taxes in a couple of hours, and I even did my husband's, and I was like, yeah, this is so good. Oh. It was like task completion. Oh, it's so freaking wild. So this is the perfect time to check things off your to-do list. Carve out large chunks of focused time to do project work and just get it done, because organizing things will feel so satisfying. I love you too, Sarah. So check back on your project plans from the most recent follicular week, where you set those big goals and you started a new project, and see what you can complete. So see how it comes full circle. So stay focused. The force is within you during this phase. See what I mean? Like, yes, we think like, oh, I want ovulation to last forever, but the luteal phase, it's something about it. It's actually might be one of my favorite phases because I just love to get stuff done. And like I mentioned earlier, there's kind of two different parts of this phase. In the first half of this phase, you'll have more energy to still spend with others. And in the second half of this, you'll want to be more like looking after yourself, focus on that self-care, speak up for yourself, say no more often. If it's not a hell yes, you need to say no during this phase. Set your own firm boundaries. Otherwise, you're going to become irritated this week. So this is like best time to really just be like, is it a hell yes? Okay, no, see you later. So this is the ultimate phase to take care of yourself, prepare for your menstrual phase. You may even wish to nod off earlier or stay in bed for a little bit longer during this. Just choose whatever feels right for you. And when we kind of look at the workouts that are great for us during this phase, during the first part, we'll have energy to burn. So we still want to kind of do the same, super slow strength training, intense yoga. And then during the second half of this phase, you want to switch to lighter activities like walking, Pilates, yin yoga. Love this permission. Yes, I'm all about giving this kind of permission. And then when we look at what kind of foods to focus on, we want to focus on foods that are rich in B vitamins to starve off our sugar cravings. We want to eat lots of leafy greens to boost our calcium and magnesium whilst reducing fluid retention. And then you want to add roasted or baked root vegetables to help your liver and large intestine flush out estrogen more efficiently. So that's kind of those things. And then we'll be moving into our final phase. Hear the call of the wise woman, your menstrual phase. There is so much magic in this phase if you decide to lean into it instead of try to fight it. So this phase lasts anywhere from 3 to 7 days. So it's very similar to your ovulation phase in length. And because the egg was released during your cycle and it didn't get fertilized, your body no longer needs the thickened lining of your uterus, so it gets rid of it. Estrogen and progesterone drop to their lowest levels, causing that uterine lining to shed, leading to your menstrual bleed. That's literally what the bleed is. It's shedding that inner lining. And during this phase, we crave deep rest. We crave a quiet and cozy space. We crave an empty social calendar so that we can just tend to our own needs. This is the ultimate time for you to slow down. If you can actually, if you have a job where you can create your own schedule, if you can take off the day of your bleed, like the first day, you'll do yourself such a big favor. And if you can't, then just see how can I create more self-care practices on my bleed. Maybe it's saying no to social things, having a bath, whatever it is, just kind of making up for it in that way. And the menstrual phase can be both mentally and physically exhausting. Like your body is literally doing such hard work, physical work, and you're undergoing a lot of hormonal changes. So make space for your inner wise woman. She knows what to do. Let your intuition be your guide during this phase. And allow yourself to feel your feelings. Don't be afraid to get vulnerable. Check in with yourself. Your intuition is heightened during this time. This is a great time to do, if you're into tarot cards or affirmation cards, pull these kind of things because your intuition is just next freaking level. So use that to your advantage. And because of the hormone levels declining, it also creates a greater communication between your two brain hemispheres, the left analytical side and the right feeling side, which means that you're best able to really synthesize how you feel about situations with the facts and actually determine the best course of action. So make sure to take time to make time in your schedule for analysis and review, and really think strategically about where you want to take things big picture in your life. So when you were dreaming in your follicular phase and you were kind of starting to think now it's starting to analyze those dreams. Is this really what I want? Is this going to get me to where I want to be? Is this what I really should be doing right now? So make sure you schedule time for this. Journaling, all those kind of activities, so great for you during this time. And really ask yourself, am I feeling good about the different things that I'm doing in my life, how I'm spending my time, who I'm spending my time with? Turn inward, check in with your wise woman. She's got all the answers. And for work, like, you want to spend this week evaluating project and results that works. So really kind of reading reports, digging into data, digging into financials, and analyze if you're getting where you want to go. And if not, what do you need to change to get back on track? Your energy is going to be at its lowest during the beginning of your period. So it's completely okay to consider napping a sport. Do it. And later in the week, when you'll have more energy, you can focus on lighter exercises such as walking, yin yoga, kundalini, or mat pilates. And now that your body is involved in the intense process of menstruation, you want to focus your diet on foods that add nutrients, protein, fats, low glycemic index veggies and fruits to keep your blood sugar steady, whilst adding also fiber and antioxidants. Seafood, kelp, and nori can really help remineralize your body with iron and zinc, which you lose during your menstruation. And this is the perfect time to cook lots of soups and stews, and really just like, what kind of food do you crave in the winter? But instead of like going for that burger, that comfort food, like, no, that's not actually going to serve you. And one last thing that I wanted to mention, kind of in regards to, I know I've been talking about exercises. So often as women, we kind of tend to push ourselves so much, like, oh, we got to work out in the gym, got to push hard, got to do this. But because of the hormonal changes in your cycle, if you're doing that, for instance, during the second half of your luteal phase or your menstrual phase, you're causing more harm than good. And you can actually create gain weight and things like that. Even though you're thinking you're working out and you're burning calories, it actually has the opposite effect. Love a rich nutrient-dense soup. Yes, me too. Okay, so that's kind of like my quick spiel into all of this, but I did want to let you guys know, this is literally what I meant, just like, you guys are going to be the first ones to know. So I'm going to be launching a 4-week course called Become Besties with Your Cycle on April 18th. So it's still a little bit in the future, but I wanted to kind of put it out into the world. And I kind of wanted to break down what's going to be in the course in case you want to dive into it. So week 1, what is cycle syncing? So learning a little bit more in depth about cycle syncing, why it matters. We're going to look at our different hormones, where they're at during the different phases in our cycle and what those hormones do in our body. Then during the second week, we'll kind of take a deep dive into our follicular phase and our ovulatory phase. And we're going to be looking at the different exercises we should be doing, the different foods, so more in depth. Like, I know I gave you kind of a sneak peek tonight. Rituals that you can be doing during these phases that are really, really good to kind of leverage your superpowers, the work that you should be scheduling, also your love life, and then your inner strengths. And then week 3 is the same kind of stuff for the luteal and menstrual phase. And then week 4, we're going to be looking at supplementation, because women are actually more prone to be micronutrient deficient, which is causing a lot of our hormonal issues, which makes a lot of sense. It all comes back full circle. I actually did a post about this yesterday, about how all the things that we're doing as women are causing us to be micronutrient deficient, which is why Juice Plus is so amazing. So I am going to be mentioning that Juice Plus is my favorite supplementation for my hormonal balance. But we're going to be diving deeper into all of that in that 4th week. And then also learning a little bit more about your feminine superpowers in general. So obviously this is like a very, very feminine practice, is learning to sync with your cycle. But what are some other feminine practices that you can be doing to really tap into your inner strength and really embrace that? Because like the Dalai Lama said, Western world is going to be saved. The world is going to be saved by Western women, but we need to tap into our feminine superpowers to come that. It's all going to be hosted in a private Facebook group. And we're going to have weekly Q&A sessions. So every Sunday of that week, you can like drop all your questions that you have throughout the week, and then I can answer them on the Q&A and also just community. And then the investment is, I know most of you are probably in the US. I know Sarah is not, because she's also in Canada, but it's 222 Canadian dollars plus GST, which I should have looked at how much that is in the US. but it's probably going to be like something like 180 US, I guess. I could be wrong. And if this sounds of interest to you, because it is going to be my launch on this call, I'm going to offer a 10% discount for anyone who is part of the girls. What is your group called again, Jennifer? Girls Gone Grateful. Yes, I'm going to be offering a 10% discount on all of you guys. So that's going to be a $22 off, and then plus GST. Yeah, so this is kind of, I'm launching it. I'm super excited for it. I'm super nervous for it, but I know it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to really educate on this. So if you guys have any questions, you can like look me up on Instagram. It's Coach Kat. Send me a message letting me know that you were part of this webinar, and I can get you all the details. But questions, now is the time. You can ask me any questions about anything I spoke about. If you need any more clarity about anything.
Kat, this has been incredible. And I have learned so much in 48 minutes, more than probably my whole life about, menstrual cycles. So thank you so much. And thank you for offering that discount to Girls Gone Grateful. I'm like blown away. Thank you so much. I know I want to be a part of that. So I'm really looking forward to it for sure. Like this has been, like I said, more educational than anything I've ever gotten as far as what to do, why I'm feeling the way that I feel, what to eat. It's just really awesome. I did have a question about, because I'm a nutrition coach, but I do more personal training than anything. And so I have more, I feel, understanding about strength training and whatnot than nutrition as far as like how long I've been doing it. So can you say again what you were talking about as far as strength training, when it's more damaging and what that means?
We're going to be diving deeper into like how it affects your hormones particularly, but basically a lot of the times our issue can be we're trying to do exactly the same workouts throughout our cycle, but that's not actually how our body is meant to work. So that's why I kind of mentioned in the different slides, like when you're in your follicular phase and in your ovulation phase, in that first week of luteal phase, so most of your cycle, you can go hard. You have the energy, you want to strength train. It's really beneficial. Your body's actually building the muscle. But when it comes to your period, or being on your period on that second half of your luteal phase, it's actually just the way that your hormones are being affected. So basically, in a really easy way to describe it, during your first 2 phases of your cycle, your body is actually burning less calories compared to the second phase, but it's more prone, if you go and work out, to actually burn like the bad stuff that you don't need. Versus your body burns more calories during the second 2 phases of your cycle, but it's holding on to things more. So then if you're kind of working out, it's almost causing that effect that you don't want, where your body is then like, oh no, I'm not burning because I actually really need this right now. So that's kind of like in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you.
And how do I take track of my cycle in the calendar and app? So the lady who wrote this book, Alyssa Vitti, she has an app called My Flow, and it's my favorite app to track my cycle. It does cost a couple of dollars, but it's super sweet. I'll show you that kind of what it, there's a couple really, I was crazy hungry. Yes, because you're burning more calories, and that's why you feel hungry, because your actually body is burning more calories, so you need more food. Your stews and soups and stuff. But this is what it looks like. So the different colors are the different phases. And then if I click on it, so you'll see today like the first phase of my ovulation phase, and I can literally keep track of the different symptoms that I might be experiencing. And then if I click on this here and then click on my cycle phases, it has all the different phases. And then if I click on it, it will tell me also like the different exercises and foods and stuff in a really brief way. So it's my favorite app. I highly recommend it. That's kind of how I try it.
What was the title of the book? Into the Flow? What was the title of the book before?
In the Flow.
In the Flow. Okay. I just want to make sure I put that out on there. So I'm going to be super vulnerable right now. I am personally trying to get off of synthetic hormones, like trying to get off of birth control, but I'm terrified. Do you have any suggestions on is there any right way to eliminate or just kind of go be done?
I recommended this to one of my other clients who's currently going through that same kind of transition, maybe for a month or two, even whilst you're kind of still on your hormonal birth control, start to play around with the cycle syncing. And even though your body is physically not going through the phases, just start to bring that awareness and like giving yourself different nourishments during the different phases. Okay. So that then when you've done this for a month or two, you can then kind of support yourself through this.
Okay.
How did I learn about human design? A friend of mine, I know I'm a manifesting generator. Oh, I'm jealous of you. I wish I was one some days, and then I burn myself out. But my life and business coach got me onto it. She kind of mentioned it for the first time because I was complaining to her about my habits of hustle to burnout. And she was like, have you ever heard about human design? It's like, no. She was like, tell me how this, like, do this and that. Tell me. I was like, oh, really? I'm a projector. She's like, I knew it. You're not meant to be hustling. You're not a manifesting generator. There's a couple of different, if you send me a message on Instagram, I can send you a couple of the Instagram accounts that I follow that talk about human design a lot. They're really, really great. And yeah, I've learned a lot from there. So send me a message on Instagram and I can send them to you. Any other questions?
I know that for anyone that watches this recording, there are going to be a flood of questions. Is it okay if people reach out after they watch the recording okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate that. I will give people permission to do that. And April 18th is the launch. The launch. Yeah. Okay. And do we sign up? How did we sign up for that?
So depending on where you are, obviously you're in the US, so I would send you a link on PayPal to just do an international transfer. And then I'm going to be setting up the group and stuff. I'm going to only be taking on a certain amount of people. So spots are probably going to be filling up because I've had a lot of people interested. So
Good for you. That's awesome. I want you to do this. You're meant to speak about this. This is something that you can just tell, just getting to know you now that like this is a true passion and that it comes easily to you and that you're super into this. And so it comes across. And so I hope that it fills up and I hope that this is something you do often.
I hope so too. So this is obviously the first kind of taster of it. And I'm really excited. And I'm really excited for Q&As as well. And another reason why I wanted it to kind of have a capped amount of people so that we can really have that community and like you said, be vulnerable. And because I know that this is a topic that we're not often talking about. And we're kind of afraid to talk about. So having that safe space and really just knowing that, these people are here for the same reason, I think it's going to be really, really special.
Well, that's wonderful. So thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Kat while she's here giving us her time? You've given us a lot of info. Thank you so much. I'm going to, if no one else has a question, I'm going to stop the recording.